Just show me then go you dance.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to what is already the third press conference of IFFR's Tiger competition. We are streaming live from a studio in Rotterdam. Each day, we highlight some of the 14 titles that are part of this year's Tiger competition. The flagship Tiger competition is IFFR's unrivaled platform for emerging film talent with a distinct and modernist voice. Today, we will be discussing and speaking with directors of Eami, Kafka for Kids, and Met Mes. We will present each film and filmmaker for 10 minutes individually, followed by a Q&A session with all the filmmakers collectively. So, dear members of the press, please send in your questions via the Q&A box below your video screen. If the questions are not featured during this press conference, we will follow up with you via email, which also means do not forget to share your contact details. Now, let's get started. The first title we will be focusing on today is Eami by Paz Encina. For her third feature-length film, the Paraguayan filmmaker traveled to Chaco, where she immerses herself in the mythology of the area. She listens to the stories and testimonies of the people who are chased off their land. With that knowledge, she creates a magic realist film about a girl called Eami, who wanders the rainforest after her village is destroyed. With its enchanting images and powerful sound mix, Eami is a sensorial experience. An indictment of deforestation and the corporate crimes committed against an indigenous people, but also an attempt to record something that will be lost. Let's all welcome filmmaker Paz Encina, and we will be joined by Jasper Jacobs, who will translate for us today. Good morning, hola Paz, and thank you for joining us in the middle of the night as well. It is quite an undertaking. Yeah.
Buenos días, Paz, y gracias por acompañarnos en la madrugada. Es como bastante bien.
Hola, buenos días. Estoy acá muy contenta.
I'm very happy to be here.
And so are we. A quick question to open up this conversation. Why did it take you so long to make your second fiction feature? There was a documentary in between, but I'm referring to fiction because, especially because Hamaca Paraguaya was such an international success, and then one would have suspected that the world of film would become your oyster.
¿Por qué tardaste tanto de hacer tu segunda película de ficción, considerando que Hamaca Paraguaya era tan éxito internacionalmente? Uno hubiera sospechado que el mundo de producción de cine sería tu ostra.
Bueno, en realidad tenía un proyecto en el medio, no lo pude hacer. Es verdad que con Hamaca me fue muy bien, pero también es verdad que vivo en un país muy difícil, sobre todo a nivel cinematográfico. Es un país, vivo en un país que hace un año tiene un instituto de cine, y eso ha dificultado mucho también mi camino, mi producción, mi forma de encarar las cosas. Me ha llevado mucho tiempo poder volver a tomar como un hilo o un camino.
Yeah, I had a project in between, but I wasn't able to finish it, to realize it. And it's true, yes, Hamaca went very well. But what happens is, we live in a country where it's very difficult, talking about cinema. It's very hard. Actually, it's only a year ago that we have a cinema institution here. So to produce these things, it took me a very long time. It was quite difficult to get it done.
Yeah, it's good also that you can explain a bit more on that, because here, from Europe, where we have strong public support, it's also hard to, imagine how difficult it must be.
Sí, quizás puedes explicar un poco más, porque aquí desde Europa tenemos un apoyo tan grande de fiscal de finanzas. Es difícil imaginar cómo es ahí.
Bueno, nosotros tenemos hace un año una ley de cine, un instituto de cine. Estuvimos 20 años trabajando en la ley de cine, esperando que el Estado la apruebe. Fueron muchos años, 20 años es mucho tiempo.
Well, we have for a year now, we have actually a cinema law, and we have for a year now finally a cinema institution. And we struggled for that for 20 years. It was a long time, 20 years to struggle for that.
Yeah.
Y también venimos de una dictadura de 35 años. Eso también ha parado mucho las cosas.
And we also come from a dictatorship that took 35 years. That also has stopped and stagnated many things.
Y entonces para nosotros prácticamente con Hamaca Paraguaya fue como comenzar un camino que creo que hemos hecho igualmente muchas cosas para lo que el país nos permitía hacer. Creo que se han hecho muchas películas y que son películas a las que les ha ido muy bien en Europa, pero nos cuesta mucho tener una continuidad.
Yeah, and actually in the practice with Amaya, we did a lot of things and we went a long way. We have been able to do many things also with films that went very well in Europe. So we did get actually quite far.
Yeah.
Prácticamente yo hago Hamaca Paraguaya sin tener un país con un pasado cinematográfico.
Actually, I made Amaya Paraguaya in a country which doesn't have a cinematographic past, no cinematographic history.
Yeah, and that also made quite a loud bang once it came out. I quite distinctly remember that. I would want to now ask to a bit more specifically about the film we are presenting here, and that is, why did you choose to film with and among the Ayoreo? What did you know about them before starting the film, and perhaps also it would be good to hear how well are they known as parts of Paraguayan culture.
Sí, ahora quisiera preguntarte más específico. Me acuerdo que era bastante éxito Amaya, con un golpe fuerte que dio Amaya, Hamaca, perdón. ¿Y por qué decidiste de filmar con y de dentro los Ayoreo? ¿Y qué sabías de ellos antes de empezar la película, y en cuántos niveles son conocidos ellos como parte de la cultura paraguaya?
Yo sabía de ellos porque había trabajado hace muchos años en un programa periodístico donde habíamos ido a la comunidad. Estoy hablando de hace 25 o 30 años atrás. Que yo ya había escuchado de ellos y ya había hecho un pequeño trabajo con ellos.
Yeah, I knew about them because I worked with them for a very long time with a journalistic work. It was like ages ago, like 25 years ago. Then I had known about them, I learned about them by having done a small journalistic documentary work.
Yo quería hacer una historia de amor convencional. Tenía muchas ganas de filmar algo así, y un amigo mío me dijo, mira, hay una historia de amor que está muy bien en la comunidad Ayoreo. Era una historia de amor entre dos hermanos, y yo apenas supe de esta historia, me volví loca y la quise filmar.
And I wanted to do a love story, and this is what a friend told me about. Yeah, there is this love story, a really good love story about two brothers, and I heard about it, and that gave me very much feeling that I really want to film there.
Fui entonces a hablar con la comunidad, y la comunidad me dice, sí, esa historia existe, pero a nosotros no nos interesa que la cuentes.
So I went to talk to the community and I said, yeah, this story does exist, but we don't really feel like that you're going to tell it.
Para nosotros el amor es otra cosa, me dijeron. Y ahí yo les pregunté, ¿qué es el amor para ustedes? Y me dijeron, lo que estamos haciendo nosotros ahora, estar juntos y poder conversar, poder unirnos con la palabra.
And what they said is like love for us is something else. So I asked, what does love mean for you? And that's actually what we're doing now, that we can sit together and talk and exchange words.
Y ahí les pregunté, ¿qué quisieran ustedes que yo cuente? Simplemente por una curiosidad, ni siquiera pensaba que iba a ser una película fuera de lo que en ese momento deseaba. Y me dijeron, a nosotros nos gustaría que hables de lo que es sentirse lejos del lugar, de uno.
¿Que hables de lejos del lugar?
Lo que es estar fuera del lugar propio.
So I asked them, what would you want to do? And I hadn't thought at all about doing anything else than what I was planning to. And at that moment, they told me, well, we'd like you to talk about what it's like to be away from your own place. And to be far away from your own place.
Y ahí pensé, bueno, eso es de lo que estuve hablando todo este tiempo, del exilio, de la diáspora, de la pérdida. Y ahí sentí que esta película me venía como un destino.
So, and that's what I thought of being away, having been away very long, like being in exile, being in the diaspora, being lost. And then I felt that this film was probably supposed to be my destiny.
Wow.
Y simplemente comencé a trabajar con ellos y dejé llevarme como por los deseos que tenía la comunidad.
So then I simply started working with them, and I just let myself be carried along with the wishes that came out from their community.
And I understand from what you say that actually you developed the narrative once you started talking to them, and this story was largely shaped from these dialogues and these talks. But I wonder how much did it also influence the aesthetic of the film?
Sí, entiendo que simplemente ibas desarrollando la película hablando con ellos, los diálogos llevaron a cabo así, y me gustaría saber cuánto influenció a la estética de la película.
Todo, porque la concepción espacio-temporal de los Totoyebosode no es nuestra concepción espacio-temporal.
So our conception of it is something that's temporary, passingly, that's always.
En un momento yo pregunté a uno de ellos, ¿cuántos años tenías cuando dejaste el monte? Y me dijo, no lo sé, me dijo, habré tenido 13 o 15 años, como diciéndome, yo no pienso el tiempo como vos lo pensás, yo no me pienso en años.
I asked once, how old were you when you had to leave the jungle? And he said, well, I don't know when you had to leave your place. I think I was maybe 13 or 15 years, but we don't think the way in years as you people think. We don't think in years of age.
Y ahí comprendí que tenía que pensar el tiempo de una manera distinta a la que yo pensaba.
So there I understood I had to think of time in another way of the way I think about it.
Y que también ellos se cuentan a través de lo que para nosotros podría ser un universo de fábula o mágico, pero que para ellos es un cotidiano.
So then I thought that's something for them, and that's for us. Actually, it's like a universe of fables of magic, but actually for them, it's like daily life.
Entonces simplemente me dejé llevar por la situación de que alguien pueda hablar con un lagarto, o de que habla una planta, o de que las plantas son madres que protegen. Simplemente me dejé llevar por una concepción, por una visión distinta del mundo.
So actually I let myself be carried along that somebody could talk to a lizard, or that to talk to plants, or that plants were like mothers. I just let myself be carried along with this other world.
Y también ahí sentí que si bien la historia que yo pensaba que quería contar era distinta, estaba siendo de todas maneras una historia de amor.
So, and then I felt like even though I was making another story than what I thought I was going to do, still I was making a story about love.
I definitely felt it in this way, and it was really immersed in every sound and every image that you presented to us. Although there is some sense of familiarity and universality of language that you can develop with this film, I do wonder how complicated was it for you to shoot in a language that I assume you didn't know and had to learn, or perhaps you learned it before?
Me lo imaginé así y lo presentaste como en una parte familiar que era más o menos universal, pero quisiera saber el lenguaje, el idioma, cómo lo filmaste. ¿Tenías que aprender? ¿Cómo era filmar en un idioma que no conocías? ¿Tenías que aprender el idioma? ¿Cómo lo hiciste?
En realidad el guión yo escribí en español con la asistencia de un joven líder de la comunidad.
Actually, I wrote the script in Spanish with the help of a young leader of the community.
Y luego lo que hice es trabajar con este líder todo el tiempo y a su vez trabajó conmigo un asesor intercultural.
And so there, I kept on working afterwards with this leader all the time, and I also had like an intercultural advisor.
Esta persona trabaja hace 20 años con la comunidad y entonces entre los tres íbamos conformando una escena, todo con la traducción del líder.
So this person also works for 20 years with the community. So the three of us, we would try to get conformity in the scenes, always working with this young leader, and he was translating.
Y por otro lado, el hecho de que esté el líder fue algo muy beneficioso para nosotros porque ellos tienen una estructura vertical. Entonces todos hacían lo que el líder quería que hagan.
So, and working with this young leader was actually very good for us, very effective, because they have like a vertical structure. So we basically did all the leader told us.
Ahora también nosotros hacíamos lo que el líder quería que haga, porque yo hacía un casting, elegía los actores, pero después llegaban los que el líder quería que lleguen.
Yeah, so we also did, so the leader did what we wanted, but we also did what the leader wanted. Like, for instance, we had a casting, but then the leader decided who would come for the casting.
Entonces, era todo el tiempo como unas negociaciones a las que estábamos. De repente, es que lo que nosotros hacemos es como absurdo de alguna manera para una comunidad indígena. No terminan de entender qué implica una película. Cuando la vean, yo creo que eso va a cambiar. Pero mientras la hacíamos, les parecía todo muy absurdo.
So it's actually, we are also kind of in a negotiation, but for them it seemed very absurd, like the indigenous community, they couldn't figure out what it implies to make this film. But I guess after they'll see it, that will change.
I think so too.
Pero
oh, sorry.
No, que eso no era así para los niños, y entonces fue muy fácil filmar con ellos. Para ellos era un juego, entonces simplemente era muy fácil todo.
So that didn't count for the kids, the children. For them, it was very easy to film. For them, it was simply a game, so it was very easy to film with them.
Yes, I can imagine it could have been something quite playful, and I would love to, continue discussing this with you for hours, because already this was very informative. So thank you very much, Paz Encina. We will see you back later at the Q&A. And now onwards to our next contender.